It's time for ROTD Weekend. You will never guess what I'm doing this weekend. I am in Vegas and I'm attending the Fancy Food Show. Yes, really. It's a trade event for the specialty food and beverage industry, and it's huge. It's at the Vegas Convention Center, and just all kinds of small companies that have food and beverage products are displaying their stuff. And there's lots of samples, and I really am going to get to see what is up and coming and new. What are we going to start seeing on our shelves? New potato chip flavors, new cocktail and mocktail ideas, all kinds of stuff on display there. So that is what I am doing. Of course, I'm recording this before I leave, so it's not the weekend yet, but I am getting so excited and I want to tell you about it. Now, you are going to be listening to this on Saturday, and I'm going to the show on Sunday. So here's what I would love for you to do. I told you last week that I have a survey for you about what you've been enjoying about the podcast and what you want to see in the future. If you fill out that survey, and thank you to those of you who have, but when you go and fill that out at the bottom, it says, is there anything else you want to tell me? If there is something you want me to be on the lookout for at the Fancy Food Show, or you know what, I'm going to put the link to the exhibitors in the show notes for this podcast episode. You can go and look. If there's somebody that you want me to go and check out, mention them at the bottom of that survey where you can just put whatever you'd like. And I will be looking at these results before I hit the showroom floor on Sunday. And I will make sure to stop in and see whoever you want me to find out about for you. So that survey is at cookthestory.com/2025cooks. COOKS. And yeah, so I know a lot of you have done it already. I mean, if you have done it and you just want to go and answer this one question at the bottom to tell me about the Fancy Food Show exhibitor that you want me to go check out, you can do that again. If you haven't filled it out yet, please do. I am using that information to help me decide what recipes to test and create in the months ahead, and also what kinds of guests and topics to cover on this podcast. So super helpful, but also I want to know what you want me to go see at the Fancy Food Show. I can't wait. Now, speaking of travel, me going to Vegas and food, that wonderful intersection, the Venn diagram of travel and delicious food. My guest today is just plain perfect. I mean, she's always just plain perfect, but she is perfect for today's topic. I am speaking to Kathy Hester, who you probably know from all of her amazing vegan cookbooks and from her blog, Healthy Slow Cooking. But now Kathy has a new venture that she is here to tell us about. It's a new YouTube channel that is all about adventuring and food and plant-based eating, all things that she loves and that I know you're going to want to hear about. So without further ado, let us listen to a conversation between me and my friend, the amazing Kathy Hester. Kathy Hester, welcome back to the show.
Yay! It's so good to be back and see you and hang out with you. You're one of my favorites.
I know. You are one of mine too. I know people listening. Kathy and I had our scheduled time, an hour and 15 minutes ago it started. And we have just been catching up and talking ever since then. So, but now we have decided that we are going to record the episode for you all to hear. And I am super excited because you, Kathy, have started a new venture. So if people know you, and they probably do, you are known for whole food, plant-based cooking classes. You are the appliance whisperer, Ninja Creamy, all these things. And so people probably know that about you, but you are starting a new venture, just started, and it's really cool. Can you tell people what it is?
Absolutely. So as whole food, plant-based people, sometimes we leave our houses. I know that's a shocker. But we travel, right? So what we were looking for, we were going on a cruise and we were trying to get more information about what we could eat and not eat. And Cheryl actually recently, thankfully, got laid off. So she is now part of the business, which she wasn't before. And I thought we need something new for her. So we started the Plant-Based Explorer and Explorers. Sorry, that was my fault. We started it like a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
So it's a brand new thing. And we'd love for you guys to join us over there if you want, if you're interested. We're going to not just do cruise travel, but I kind of decided to go all in. It's also my 60th birthday year. And we went on our very first cruise last month.
Wow.
You and I were talking and you said you were not a cruise person.
Not.
And I'm curious what you really didn't like about it too. Maybe what ship you went on.
So I've been on 3 cruises. Once when I was 17 was a Royal Caribbean cruise out of Puerto Rico to like Virgin Islands and places. And then once was when I had young children, also Royal Caribbean, Bahamas and Cozumel, I think. And then we went on a Disney cruise, which with my parents and my brother and his family. The thing that I dislike the most is when I travel, I like to really get to know a place, and that involves being there for more than a day and eating there and going to the markets there and all of those things. And I feel like cruising, well, you're eating on the ship. So even the ones where I think you dock overnight, like I think a lot of people go back to the ship and eat. I've never been on one like that.
Yeah.
So
That's what I'm saying too. And I totally get what you're saying too, because like I'm a huge vibe person. So like when we go to Disney or Universal Studios, we went with a friend recently and she's just running from ride to ride. And I'm like, no, I'm in the Star Wars world. I am immersing. I am on a different planet.
Yes.
Like, so, and different things actually, different places feel different to me. So what I'm looking at cruising like is getting a little sampler of all these places so we can decide to either come back later and spend more time. So maybe it's just a different expectation. And since we really haven't traveled, we've gone to Mexico and I've been to Canada. So like we're really not traveled enough that for someone who's kind of coming at it from that, like the cruise we went on, we went to Key West and Nassau. So like, and some of these we're going to repeat too, to try out the ships and things.
Right.
But one thing I do love about a vacation, and I hate to say this, I love a nice hotel. I love really soft sheets. I love a spa.
Yes.
So I'm kind of seeing the cruise ships as ways for me to have all of that and then to go and get these samplings. Like at the end of trying to remember I think we have 2 cruises. Okay. This month we have 1 cruise. February we have 2 cruises. March we have 2 cruises. April we have 2 cruises. There may be a 3rd coming.
Oh my goodness.
And so we just booked all this travel in the past couple of weeks so that I can get content for the channel and celebrate my 60th birthday all as one. But some of these will go to the same place. One thing we decided to do, we're going on Virgin Voyages, which I think you would like. I'll find out. I go in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you if I'm wrong. But like it's a different, more casual situation. But it's made for kind of, I hate to say hip. Like if you think of Holland, people think about like grandpas and chamber music. And I think this is more like the Scarlet Night Party and fun stuff to do, but it's got great food.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And so we're doing a lot of those cruises so I can get the top status for when we go do our England, Iceland cruise in July. Because then we'll get priority boarding, we'll get onboard credit, we'll get coffees every day, and it'll just make it very pleasant. But we can go to Southampton or the UK early. We haven't planned it out yet, how it's going to work out. And then we can go see a couple of the places in the UK while we're there.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple of ways. And again, this is a little bit conjecture because we're going to prove all this right or wrong and what works better and what ships are better. Because like Royal Caribbean, I want to go on one, but like Royal Caribbean and Norwegian seem to be more like floating theme park is a big part of that. I think you can avoid it too, but like we went on Celebrity and we went on an older Celebrity ship. and it was gorgeous.
Oh.
They had a huge vegan menu.
That's what okay, wait. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. That's what I really want to know about is what you're finding out so far. So they had a vegan menu on the Celebrity cruise ship?
Yes, and so we're finding as we're doing our research, a lot of them are starting to get vegan or plant-based menus.
Wow.
And a lot of it would be like main dining room. So that's where everybody is allowed to go. We, at this first cruise, we got it so cheap. We paid less than $1,000 to go on a 3-night cruise in Aqua Class. So we had a fancy balcony room. We had the shower with all these massagey heads. We got to go to the spa, like not get massages, but go to the sauna and the aromatherapy room and all of that whenever we
Kathy, where did that cruise leave from?
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I need to find out more about this because it's like a 2-hour drive from my house.
Right. Well, I'm going to be off and on there and there in Miami a lot, as you see. So we can talk about this. And if you want to try cruising with me, so if you want a different kind of cruising, right? Because this is all like, we're going to film, we might work a little bit, but we're also going to enjoy the spa a lot. Like the Aqua Class came with a fancy spa dining venue. So it was like an eighth of the size of the main dining room. So we were really attentive. It was beautiful. So for every night we had 2-hour long dinners where we just chatted and we went with some friends. So to me, like a really good regular vacation, I just want to walk around. I want to see some new stuff, relax, and spa is really key in me relax. I don't have Cheryl and I actually got a massage every day. I've spent all our Christmas money on massages.
That's amazing. I love it.
Right. So like you could do something, find a really good deal and do something like that. But like when the first night, they don't have like, you can't tell them you're vegan before, which is weird. And I don't really understand it, but it seems to be a theme across lines. And we'll find out more as we do more. But so that night, they were able to make us food just fine. They gave us a lot of options, more than I thought they would. And then they gave us this big menu that you opened up and it had like 14 vegan entrees to choose from. You order for the next day. You know, everything wasn't perfect. It was great. I don't know if in the main dining room, the portions would be so tiny because it was a spa restaurant, right? So I was like, I'm going to get soup and salad. I'm going to be good. So I'm expecting this bowl of soup and a big salad. And the soup would have maybe been a quarter cup of a coffee mug. So it was a very little soup. And then the salad was probably like a 1x3-inch rectangle of like arugula and strategically placed watermelon cubes.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like,
okay, everyone. So what we've learned so far from Kathy is if you are on the Celebrity Aqua Class in the fancy aqua spa menu, plant-based, and you are ordering from the big menu for the day before, for the next day, order lots of things.
Oh, after that, so everybody else around me got an entree and I was like, oh, that's going to be too much food, right? And also realized we have the buffet. So literally I went downstairs and got some vegan food off the buffet, but we can talk about that again in a minute. But like that for the next day, I ordered a soup, an appetizer, a salad, an entree. And so like it was a tiny little summer roll cut in half was the appetizer. So like usually you think of appetizers, you're thinking like TGI Fridays, a giant thing of nachos, but we're looking at these little tiny portions of food. And I got a Thai green curry. It was very interesting. It didn't come with rice or potatoes, no starch. So like after that, I was like going down to the buffet again. But it was beautiful because I love the relaxing kind of soul filling atmosphere of just being able to slow down. Almost everybody who sees me on a Zoom call sees me eating because there's no other time for me to eat. So vacation, just taking this slow 2-hour period of time. I know some people hate it and they're like, I would rather do something horrible than to sit there for 2 hours. And those are not my people.
No, I've explained to friends of mine before we don't do this very often. We eat out very rarely, actually. We don't go out for lunch. We don't go for breakfast. We don't go out for a quick dinner at Chili's or anything like that very often. But when we do go out, we often go to nice restaurants or you know what I mean? And so I've had friends be like, how do you spend that much money on a restaurant? And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't eat out very much at all. But then it's my entertainment. Like, it's like I could say to that same friend, how did you spend $300 each to go to that concert? Because I'm very rarely going to spend any money. I did Elton John. I spent money to see Elton John, but like not usually, but yeah, it's entertainment. It's a lot like the food is entertainment. Sitting across from somebody that I adore and having an amazing conversation is entertainment. Like all of that is what it's for. Because as much as we do like sit at the table sometimes and eat, there's stuff going on and I'm going to go to the kitchen to get something or like, it's just different when you're in a restaurant, right?
Absolutely. And so like Cheryl and I love that experience. And like we've even gone, I forget the name of the restaurant, but there's the fancy Japanese restaurant in Epcot. We actually last year went there and like they just changed we got there right when it was $150 a person for plant-based instead of $250, and now they've changed it. Mm-hmm. But we had like a 2.5 hour, almost 3 hour dinner with tiny small courses, this beautiful Zen space. And like we had been really stressed before then. And when we left there, we felt like we had spent the day in the spa. And I think it's about how does it feel for you? And I have friends too. So we go to this Indian buffet, which is not this long, wonderful, experience, but twice a month they have a vegan Indian buffet. So wow. A lot of people I know from the community are there. A lot of us sit in the back table and open it and close it and just visit. So it really is more like a visit. But I went with some friends for their birthday and I'm like, guys, I'll be back there in a minute because they're not going to be able to be here longer than an hour. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, what do we do now? I think I'm antsy. I've got to go to the grocery store. Like they're always like, then got to go somewhere. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's the whole purpose is it's almost like self-care to sit there mm-hmm. and just like, you don't make yourself. If it's something you hate and you just can't, I'm not trying to encourage anyone to do that. But if you're not sure, look around you and see, are you cueing off of the people sitting around you that you don't want to stay? Or is it really something inside you? Because when I'm with some of these anxious people, then I don't want to stay and relax.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I have always loved a nice long dinner by myself. Even when I didn't have very much money to spend, I've gone out to eat by myself since I was like 18 years old.
Do you take a book with you or something, or you're just...
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I regularly have gone with a coffee shop or a little restaurant and by myself and a book, and it feels you're right, it is self-care. It is peaceful, and it's about the food and my mind and whatever I'm reading. Lovely. I love that.
Right. And so I've had people too go, don't you feel weird? And I was like, why would I ever feel weird about that? I'm a nice person to the waiter. I know I'm going to leave a good tip. I'm not going to stay 17 hours, but it's also if you're partnered up with someone or married or whatever, or have kids, you get to go where you want to go. You get to go to the place that no one will go with you. Have the thing that you love.
Absolutely. I agree. There's so much about that. The cooking for myself too. Sometimes people are like, how do you just cook for yourself? Isn't that a lot of work for one person? I'm like, oh, no, because I am having exactly what I want. But I want to make sure you mentioned the buffet, Kathy, so it was Celebrity Cruise Line on just the buffet that's available to everybody. Do they have options there?
Oh my gosh, there were so many options. And okay, we were on the Celebrity Silhouette, which is an older ship. So sometimes even within the lines, some things can change ship to ship, or if it's in Europe versus the Caribbean and things like that. But so we went into the buffet and I went in with a pretty negative attitude, which I got schooled right away. Like right away, I walked up and there's like a section of the buffet that says vegan.
Wow.
And there were 2 Indian dishes. They always had an Indian dish and wild rice. And like one time Cheryl was excited. They had vegan chicken nuggets on the menu, on the little thing. On the other side was all Indian food. You could always ask. They did mark clearly if something was vegetarian and if something was dairy free, but they did not mark if it was egg free. So that's something, but there are people there you can ask. In the end between those two. So it's like as if it was making a V. Mm-hmm. So one one side was vegan, one side was Indian, and then there was this space. And I looked and I just like in awe, there were whole roasted butternut squashes, whole roasted eggplants, whole roasted zucchini, like just piled up like a real life cornucopia
Wow.
of delight. And like, I got to go in and just scoop off the whole bottom of a butternut squash and eat it without having to do anything.
Nice.
And oh, I was so excited. You can't tell, I'm sure, how excited I was about that butternut squash. And I'm like, why don't I ever make butternut squash? All I have to do is poke some holes in it and throw it in the oven, right? And then, and the buffet is massive. So as you go, like, there's a whole salad thing. They also have balsamic vinegar because some of my people don't do oil due to medical reasons. So it would be really easy to still make a delightful salad, put some balsamic on it and not feel left out. There was a whole other section of fruit, and then they had a part that had baked potatoes and all these steamed vegetables. And so to eat a starch solution meal, which probably most of your listeners are not doing, it's usually like 50% potato or rice or whatever, and 50% vegetables is kind of the gist. And so we have a friend, Elizabeth, who's in my community that we met up with. She's even been on the starch solution. She cruises at least every month, and she's lost 60 pounds even cruising.
Wow. I guess, what you're saying, I'm realizing. So we started off this conversation with me explaining what I didn't like about cruising. And it was because I want to go and have all the experiences of the place that I'm at. But I can quickly see how, if you have dietary restrictions, having to be on vacation in a place where who knows what the different restaurants are going to have, or, are they cooking all of their beans in pork fat? Are they not, and I'm not to disparage any cultures or cuisines in any way, shape, or form. Just if you have dietary restrictions and you're going to a new place, that could be very challenging to find your food all the time. But if you're on a cruise ship and you can spend your day on this place and then come back where for sure they're going to have the food you can eat, like that is an amazing solution for people who want to be adventurous and travel and be able to keep on their I want to say diet, but on their
eating plan.
Eating plan. Thank you.
Is usually what I call it, just because it's like some people are trying to lose weight, some people are trying to be healthier. It's just whatever they want to do. And for anyone who is kind of looking for certain dietary needs, like Happy Cow is an app you can download, and it's got different countries and things. Like we found some stuff in Key West on it. You can also like do Google Maps and ask for plant-based food. Find Me Gluten Free is a good gluten-free app.
Oh.
And sometimes I use both of them. But anyhow, so you can find some things, but then they might be closed. Like with Happy Cow, when you're using it, since the pandemic and the way all the information is about restaurants on the internet, I would highly recommend you go to their website and double check when open times are and things. But it is nice. And I'm kind of looking at the cruise ship almost like you would look at an all-inclusive resort. So like if you're going to an all-inclusive resort in Mexico, you're probably not going to experience the natural native Mexican way of being, right? You're kind of insulated. But you might take a tour.
Right.
You might check out this place to see, oh, I feel safe here. I would book an Airbnb here next time, something like that. And that's also how I'm looking at this. But there is a safety because we went with so 4 vegans went, and Jeremy was really nervous. And he's a little more nervous anyhow. But as soon as he saw the buffet, he was like, oh, okay. There was gluten-free stuff. There was a pasta station. There's this station. There was always a vegan ice cream flavor.
Oh, wow.
Right. And this is at the not the best ship. And so we did not go into the regular main dining room because we had the other, but everything we had would be available there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was very interesting and really eye-opening because when I think buffet, I think like, oh, maybe it'll be like, what is it, Golden Corral or something? I'm like, they're just going to slap that stuff out.
Yeah.
And they made fresh pizza. You saw them rolling out the pizza dough all day long. And I was really kind of impressed. So I think, especially if you haven't cruised before, I would encourage doing what I just did and do a 3-day cruise, because if you get seasick, if you just hate it, then you're not out for 7 days. The reason we won a cruise in March to go on the holistic health at sea, and it's 7 days. So we're like, we got to try it out before we go 7 days. And we also asked our doctor to prescribe some seasickness medicine that we could take just in case, because I didn't know if I would get seasick. I didn't when the boat first went. I felt a little squidgy, but I'm like that. I'm very super sensitive about things. I had a ginger beer and then I was fine. I didn't need anything. It wasn't very, you could feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could sit at dinner and feel it, and it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
The two other people we were with always take seasickness medication.
Okay.
So I think as long as you're prepared, and I think who you go with, just like any vacation, like that's what I find the hardest thing is finding people who are good for you to travel with.
Yes.
They are probably good to travel by themselves or good to travel with different people. But for me, I know I need people who can go off and do their own thing, and don't try to make me go on the roller coaster, because I don't want to, and it's not going to be fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to make you go look for the Whovians because it's Christmas and we're at Universal, which is super boring to a lot of people. Right. But I'm like, how do they do that makeup? So I think that's the thing that I'm always kind of, we're vacationing with some new people a couple of times. Elizabeth, the person who lost the weight, she was on the same cruise and she was great. She was showing us everything. She was delightful. And we have actually booked 2 more cruises where she's going to join up with us. But we just meet up with her sometimes. Like we didn't even eat meals together. And it was delightful. We would go and do something or hang out in the spa.
Kathy, I love that you're having so many exciting experiences and that this is all building into this YouTube channel, which is very cool. But I also want to make sure that we have time for you to share a recipe with us today. Have you brought a recipe to tell me about?
Yes, I have.
Oh, what is it? What is it?
Oh, okay. So it's one of my favorite, and I call it a cheater recipe. And some people think cheater recipes are like high calorie or whatever. To me, cheater recipes feel like you didn't cook at all.
Oh, I like that.
Right?
Super easy.
I like it. And so this is one of my favorite cheater recipes, and I'm going to give you even 2 other ways. I'm going to give it to the regular way, and we're going to talk about how you can modify it to make it even easier. Yeah, like the easiest. And it's perfect for, I don't feel like I want to cook. I just drove home from Fort Lauderdale from a cruise and I'm hungry. Or maybe for those of you who have snowy things, it snowed outside and you're like, oops, what do I cook?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do my 15-minute red beans. So like red beans and rice. So you are responsible for turning on your rice cooker or heating up some rice from the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
But I got you covered on the red beans. And so if you have 2 cans of kidney beans in your pantry, you can make this.
I'm excited. I love kidney beans. That's a good one.
Right. And so I don't know if everybody's had like red beans and rice. So typically what's done is there's like animal fat in there that makes them look whiter and creamier, but we're going to do a trick. So these are actually very low calorie, high protein, high fiber, and have 0 oil in them. If you like it, oil, you could throw some in there. So you do you, and don't let me change you. So we can do this 3 different ways. One is we can have chopped onion, chopped bell pepper, and chopped celery separate, which is often called the Holy Trinity in New Orleans, right? Because this is a recipe from there. So that's great. You're tired. You don't want to do any of that. So you could use like some fajita mix with peppers and onions and just chop those up a little bit frozen. Or we can say, to heck with it all.
Do they sell that frozen? You can buy fajita mix frozen?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I don't know I don't know anything about this. So it's like a bag of frozen sliced peppers and onions.
Yes.
And you warm them up, and can you tell that they were frozen and you're just warming them up?
Oh, no. Oh, let's talk tips before we get into this recipe then. So my favorite of all the tips that I do is that I dice up a whole bag of onions and put them directly in the freezer. So that sounds like a lot of work. I use the Breville dicer, but also the KitchenAid attachment that has a dicer. You can do it in like 10 minutes. And then I have a giant, like, I don't know, is that a gallon bag? And I pack it flat and then I knock a corner on the counter to loosen it up, put it right in my skillet.
Wow. And then you're sauteing them. They're getting soft anyway. So of course they're going to be fine. And so you're
Right.
saying that the store-bought fajita mix, it reacts similarly once you heat it up.
It does. I would go ahead and either chop it or put it in a small mini food processor
Mhm.
so that it's smaller, because we want this to be a little more incorporated in these red beans than we would a fajita. But I always keep frozen fajita mix in the freezer. And I also keep Trader Joe's tricolored bell peppers,
Mm.
because I don't know about the rest of y'all, but half my bell peppers go bad before I use them. So this way I always have them, and then I don't have to beat myself up about it.
Mhm.
I do freeze some of my own celery, but there's a total way around that, because you either are a person or a household that has celery all the time or that never has celery all the time.
Oh, wait, I have a third category for you. A household that has celery all the time, but never puts it in any recipes. My family does not like celery. I love it. So I eat it like with cottage cheese, or I put peanut butter on it, or I just snack on it all the time. It's in the fridge, but I never, ever, ever put it in any food because they don't like it.
I love that. And so ground celery seed is the answer, because you can always,
Yeah.
like Cheryl doesn't like the texture of celery, but I can put some ground celery seed in. So
Love
the
ground celery.
third option. So okay, we're talking about chopping our own veggies, using frozen veggies. The third option is I cannot be bothered with all this. And you're going to use onion powder and garlic powder and ground celery seed. And you know what? It's going to taste brilliant.
Oh,
Anyway,
garlic powder and onion powder. I put them in things, even if I already put onion and garlic. Like it's delicious, and it just brings it all out so much. I love it.
well, and people who are trying to lower their sodium intake for medical reasons, like maybe their doctor said you have high blood pressure, you can't have salt. And it's very hard to overcome. And my salt substitute that I tell people to do is 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon ground celery seed, which actually has some sodium in it.
Natural.
And it hits those spots on your tongue. Is it perfect? Like if you and I ate it right now, we'd be like, oh, I wish we had some salt. But if you couldn't have it, it's a helper, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you get those flavors in. So either you're going in and you're sauteing these. And if you're not oil free, you could add a little olive oil, heat it up, put it in the pan. If you're eating oil free, you can just put a little bit of water and water saute that in. It's not going to really change anything. You're going to be fine. It's going to take longer for it to cook down, but it's not that big a deal. So at that point, we're just doing the onions. And then I would go ahead and add in my garlic powder, onion powder, celery seed, and just do it for a little bit more. You could also use garlic cloves instead of garlic powder if you have some in the fridge. It's totally flexible. That's the whole thing. And then we're going to put our Cajun spice blend in. And I have one I make that's salt-free. I prefer, even though I eat salt, to get salt-free seasoning mixes, because I can do 4 times the amount of Cajun seasoning. I'm not limited to, okay, I can't have this any saltier.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
You like that too?
Yeah.
I
either buy them salt free, or I make them and I don't put the salt. Like I make my own taco seasoning blend, and I don't put the salt in it. And then I could add tons of taco seasoning blend and then just add the salt to taste. Yeah.
And it's brilliant. I like it a lot. And I make almost all my own blends. And that's why I'm doing the potions and powders. But the powders are like spice blends and dry mixes and stuff like that. But they're so easy to make. And then you can customize it for exactly what you like. Like you might try my recipe and be like, that's not spicy. I need spicy. You could put ghost pepper in yours. You can do whatever. So you're adding the salt-free Cajun seasoning, and it has various spices. So what I like to do with spices versus herbs, or if it's a mix that has spices as well as herbs, is to get that on the heat just a little bit, because it really blossoms and opens up all those spices. And these are the little things that make this stupid simple recipe taste amazing. So then what you're literally going to do is open up to your 2 cans of kidney beans, dump them in with the fancy word aquafaba, which just means that liquid that's in the can that you used to drain away. Now we're like, ooh, it does magical things. If it really grosses you out, you can still drain them. But we can use aquafaba for the power of good in this recipe, and we can use it without. So I also usually put in a little bit of liquid smoke. If you are not in the South, can't find liquid smoke, smoked paprika works beautifully. that kind of mimics that flavor that you would get from having some sort of meat binder oil, fat back or something in there. And then what you're going to do is we're using kind of a big skillet. I don't know inches, but like a big one. And then so that you want everything kind of in a thin-ish layer. And I'm going to take my potato masher and I'm going to mash about a third of those beans. And so it's going to look weird. You're going to be like, okay, I have beans. I have these smushy beans, and then I have this weird water. As you're mixing it around and cooking it, then all of a sudden it starts looking like there's a brand called Blue Runner beans that uses cottonseed oil of all things as theirs. So they are vegan. They might kill you a little faster. Some things and it's not just me saying oil. Cottonseed oil is typically the dirtiest oil because of the pesticides. It would not be my first choice should you decide to use oil in these. So, and it looks kind of almost like white and creamy with a few dots of beans in there. And you can smush more, you can smush less. So usually I start with a third, see how I'm feeling about that. And at this point, you're probably cooking it around medium heat, medium to medium high. If it seems like stuff is evaporating faster than you can keep up with, lower the heat. If it seems like it's taking forever, turn the heat up. And if you cooked it too high and you're like, oh no, it's going to burn, just throw some water in there.
Right.
If you're like, this is never going to cook out, just turn the heat up. So this is super easy. And then you can add some salt at the end and serve it over rice. And it's brilliant. It tastes so good. And we eat it all the time. And I've even served it to guests for Mardi Gras.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So that's my recipe.
I love it.
It takes 5 minutes, but it takes me 20 minutes to explain it. If you just read it, it would take probably 30 seconds.
No, it's because you and me are talking. We always have to have a very long conversation. I like it. It's great. No, it sounds delicious. And I've been trying to, I think I actually said this on this show recently, and I know we have been talking with my kids getting a little bit older. They're a little bit more adventurous, and I've been putting more beans and more spice into things. So this would be a really, really fun thing to try for them.
And you know what? I think when I did the Instant Pot beans, I may have done a different variation of red beans on there too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but chances are good.
Yeah, on the Cookful, Kathy did a series of recipes, Instant Pot beans for us years ago at this point. And there is an Instant Pot red beans and rice. I'm not sure if it's still up on the site though or not. I'll have to check. We, as you know, Kathy, have to remove and replace. We are always cycling through different things on the site so that they're all there properly. But yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah. And if it's there, great. If not, but you can go to healthyslowcooking.com, look up red beans in the search in the upper right-hand corner, and you can see a much more concise, you'll be like, did she write that? Much more concise directions. And it does include the actual vegetables, but when Kathy's cooking club and stuff like that, that's stuff we learn. Or if you're trying to make a recipe in the slow cooker that you normally make in the stove, and the reason you're doing it is so you don't have to saute a whole bunch of things, onion powder, garlic powder.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. This is it kills me when people are doing something in the slow cooker and they have to spend 40 minutes sauteing all sorts of things and searing all kinds of things that they could do it in the slow cooker. But anyways, everybody cooks differently. So, Kathy, can you let people know where they can find you, this new adventure, and in general online, where is the best place for them to go if they want to get more of your brilliance?
Absolutely. They can go to healthyslowcooking.com, and those are all vegan recipes. They are not all slow cooking. It's just my oldest blog. So you can find Ninja Creamy recipes and Instant Pot recipes, but I also have a blog called Plant-Based Instant Pot, which is all whole food plant-based and all Instant Pot. I'm giving you what you look for there.
Yeah.
We go live a lot on my Kathy Hester Vegan Recipes YouTube channel, and you can just look up Kathy Hester and I show up. And then the new channel, which I hope all of you guys will come join and hang out with us, is the Plant-Based Explorers.
And that's on YouTube?
Yeah, that's on YouTube.
Yay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. I learned so much about cruising today.
Well, you're going to have to go on one with me now. You'll have to be on the YouTube channel.
Deal. I will do it.
Excellent. You guys heard that, didn't you? We're holding her accountable.
We'll do it. We'll do it. I love it. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was awesome.
And now you need to book a cruise, right? Well, definitely go and follow Kathy and Cheryl over at the Plant-Based Explorers on YouTube and see what they have to say. They already have some videos up there. It's just this new project, so it's exciting to see it as it's like starting off. You know what I mean? Thank you, Kathy. That was so much fun. And yes, we should definitely go on a cruise together soon. But of course, I am in my Vegas planning mode, and I guess I'll say that normally I tell you what I'm testing in my kitchen this week at this part of the show, but I am not cooking this week because I won't be here. But actually, in the last few days, I did do a couple rounds of testing on a recipe that I'm working on. No pictures or videos taken yet, but it is for a spaghetti casserole that doesn't require you to boil the noodles first. You know, I love this thing sometimes. Just if I'm just having a busy day and I've got something like spaghetti on the meal plan, to know that I can say, you know what, I'm not doing it the normal way. I'm going to do it the even faster, less effort way. I love that. So that's what this is. It's your basic kind of like spaghetti dinner. You do need to start with cooked ground beef, which I often have in my freezer these days. But once you have the ground beef, you're pretty much just putting the uncooked noodles and the beef and a bunch of other ingredients, tomato sauce, diced tomatoes, cheese, into a casserole dish, and it gets sealed up with foil really well and baked. So yeah, with that one, it's really just perfecting the right amount of liquid so that the spaghetti cooks and isn't like mushy or gummy. And then the sauce doesn't end up being too like liquidy after. So that's all that I've been doing, is playing around with the liquid ingredient amounts. And I think I've got it figured out. And so I'm going to do a final test. And if it's as good as I think, I'll do the pictures then as well. But that'll be after Vegas for sure. As to what is going live on the websites this week, there is a new lamb recipe on Cook the Story. This time it is for lamb loin chops, which I really wanted to do because my grocery store tends to have them even more frequently than they have the rib chops. For some reason, they don't usually have the rib chops fresh. They're often frozen, or they have the racks frozen, but the lamb loin chops they always have. And so I wanted to perfect that for you and for us. My son really likes lamb, so that was something I wanted to do. So that recipe is going up this week. And then on the Cookful, you maybe remember me talking about the whipped cottage cheese recipe that I did recently. Well, on the top of it, there's this garlic chili oil, and it is part of the whipped cottage cheese recipe, but I also wanted it to appear on its own for people who just want to make the garlic chili oil and not necessarily the whipped cottage cheese. So that is going live on the Cookful this week as well. And you guessed it, I'm going to be telling you about that garlic chili oil this week on this podcast, and the whipped cottage cheese, and the lamb chops. Oh no, wait, now I'm looking. That is the lamb rib chops that went live a couple of weeks ago. The lamb loin chops are on the schedule for next week on the podcast, but they are going live on Cook the Stories. If you want to make them, they will be up on Monday. You can go and find them there. What else do we have this week? Oh, a really nice little lemony pasta dish. Oh, and those salmon bites. I am so obsessed with these. They're like a Asian sauce that you add to the salmon and then cook it. And you could just have them as like little nibbles as like an appetizer, or like we did literally last night for dinner, doing like a salmon rice bowl. It had that like sweet and salty and a little bit spicy salmon and some shelled edamame that I mixed with garlic and sesame oil. And we had that on brown rice with cubed avocado, cucumber, bell peppers, and lots of green onions, cilantro, and toasted sesame seeds. It was so good. Everybody liked it. My daughter said that she doesn't always love sweet things at dinner, and the salmon was a little sweet for her. But other than that, everybody really loved it. So we do the salmon bites this week, and then I think I have the salmon bowl ready for testing coming up in a couple of weeks. So that recipe will come to you as well, and I'll be making it a few more times for me and my family before then, definitely. Well, I'm going to sign off and go get myself packing for this trip. Super excited. Fancy Food Show, Vegas. Don't forget, tell me what you want me to see at the Fancy Food Show, and just let me know what you want on this show and from my recipes, head over. Please fill out that survey. It's so helpful. It is at cookthestory.com/2025 cooks. And I want to say thank you to Kathy Hester for being such an amazing guest. And thank you to you for listening. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all new chicken cookbook. And from this podcast, Recipe of the Day, I hope you have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.